set. Okay, we'll call the Weare Board of Fire Wards September 12th, 2022 meeting to order at
1802.
18:02. First item is correspondence. Do you have any correspondence?
Only thing that I have is somebody, and I don't know who, put me in for the Committee of Merit. So next Sunday at 1:30, I have to be there to accept some sort of an award, and I don't know what it is.
Who's that from?
It's at, well, the Fire Marshal's office and,
Okay.
and the Fire Academy.
Okay,
So I don't know, somebody submitted it, and so I have to be there to accept whatever, so,
congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah, exciting.
Let me see, I don't think I have anything else that, just some stuff that I wanna talk about later, but.
Okay. All right, next item we have is, hey Wayne. You can put the time that he came in.
1803.
Yeah, well, it's close enough. Next item we have is old business, and we have George Merrill here tonight. Sir.
Oh, they moved everything.
It should be labeled old business, because it's been since maybe 2002, maybe, that I first met with the fire wards. And back then, the concern was that I was the fourth lot on the subdivision, which I am not, I'm the third. And the fire pond was never operational between either the developer or whatever happened. And at that point, they wanted me to fix it, because I was the fourth lot. But because I'm the third, I just want that's not my responsibility as a third lot owner. I agreed to sprinkle the house because of the driveway, which was conditionally approved upon sprinkling the house, which I'm perfectly fine with that. But as far as fixing the fire pond, it's not up to me. That's why I'd like the minutes to read that it's not necessary for me to do that, to get a building permit.
So, I've got some old minutes here, which we'll get to. But I want to understand what it means for the third lot, or fourth lot, I'm sorry. So, so your lot is, it says here, 51.3.
Correct.
Okay, so that's what you're saying is the third lot, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so how many lots were in that subdivision, do you know?
There's two more beyond me.
So 5, is that true? Is that true, 5 lots there was? Okay, so how many houses have been built so far?
2.
2, okay. So I didn't know if you were trying to say that yours is the third lot, or you were the third house being built?
I'm the third lot of that subdivision, which does not trigger the fire pond to be operational.
Okay. So, in the minutes that I have here, which go back to, I have some fire wards minutes and some planning board minutes. So we looked at this on Monday, July 9th, 2013, the Board of Fire Wards. And it says here that in the minutes it says, in 2007, Mr. Merrill was approved for the driveway conditionally upon having the fire pond repaired by Billy Weare, and the house that would be built would have sprinklers installed. Since that approval, the pond has not been repaired, the driveway has not been extended, and the house has not been built. So the board discussed whether, excuse me, whether the old approvals should stand, or if he would have to adhere to current regulations. And then Steve Roberts moved to table this driveway application until they can get more information. Chief Bob Vizina seconded on the discussion. He was conditionally approved because of the fire pond, which still has not been fixed. Mr. Merrill recently discovered that his driveway is not the one that affects the fire pond. All voted in favor. The motion was to table until we got more information.
Right.
That was in 2013.
And,
But it recognized that you were approved for a driveway conditionally upon having the fire pond repaired, and that the house would be sprinklered in 2007, that's what it said. So then I have planning board minutes here as well. And, so you came in, was a driveway application, it looks like.
most of the planning board minutes and meetings were in discussion of the shared driveway.
Okay, so let me back up
Okay,
for a
I'm sorry.
second if I
Yep.
could. I'm sorry. So this is Weare Board of Fire Wardens on July 9th of 2007. Okay, it says, George Merrill came in to discuss Bill Bovair lot number 406-51.3 on River Road. He is interested in purchasing this lot. The driveway is approximately 800 feet long. This is in an approved subdivision. Bill Bovair will be required to get the standpipe at the fire pond working again. He will need to install a sprinkler system in the house. Bobby's willing to work with Bill Bovair to fix the standpipe at the fire pond. Bobby will like for George to come back when he has a building plan. Is that you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm guessing it
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Same one.
All right.
Same, 100 years ago, geez.
And then it says, the turning radius for a fire department access road shall be approved by the AHJ authority having jurisdiction, I'm assuming. 60 feet. And then it gives conditions on fire department access roads. It doesn't say that there was a vote taken on that, here, so I'm not sure where that stood.
Well, I think there was no vote taken because they were gonna look into it, and every time it's been tabled or extended or looked into, and, you know, here we are in 2022, and
Okay.
I just want, either for myself or whoever might buy the lot from me, not to have to worry about going through what I've been going through as far as the fire pond, because it's not, like I said, I'm the third lot, not the fourth.
Okay, so then, if we go to the planning board meetings, minutes, there is Monday, oh, I'm sorry, that's the Board of Fire Wards meetings. Same set of minutes. So this is Planning Board, July 11th, 2013. It says George Merrill is requesting permission to extend driveway at 1015 River Road. The plan for the new driveway includes a section that will be 19% grade, which is over the 10% that is allowed by the town. Mr. Merrill is in the process of adding fill to the driveway to bring down the grade to a more acceptable level. The board reviewed the timeline of events from 2001 when the lot was created to the present and decided to conduct a site walk. George Merrill granted the board permission to walk his land at 1015 River Road and take measurements. The site walk is scheduled for July 25th, 2013 at 6 p.m. Neil Kirk moved to continue this case until the meeting on July 25th, 2013. Frank Bolton second, all voted in favor. The next one is July 25th, 2013 of the Planning Board. It says, proposed driveway, George Mill, 1015 River Road. This is a continuation of a conceptual hearing from July 11th. Prior to tonight's meeting, the board held a site walk at the property and reviewed a letter they received from town council. Chairman Francisco questioned why Mr. Merrill could not build someplace else on the lot. Merrill said building the house is proposed the most attractive and feasible place to build. If he has to build in the lower section of the property will be devalued because it won't have a view and will make it very hard to sell. Chairman Francisco feels Mr. Merrill needs to show the board something that says it is impossible to build a house in the lower section of that lot. Neil Kirk says there are two possibilities, either relocate the house or relocate the driveway. The board then discussed ways to change the driveway or house location. Neil Kirk and Chairman Francisco would prefer to continue this until Mr. Merrill can get additional information to a date Mr. Merrill requests. Neil Kirk moved to continue the driveway application for George Merrill, Lot 406-51-3, until Mr. Merrill wishes to bring the issue before the board again. Bruce Fillmore seconded, all voted in favor. And then on August 8th, 2013, Planning Board, it says, driveway proposal, George Merrill, 1015 River Road. Chairman Francisco Chip Meany and Fire Chief Bob Vizina met with Town Attorney Bill Drescher and determined that even if the planning board wanted to, by state law, they cannot allow a building to be built off an easement that is not shown on an approved plan. The approved subdivision plan does not show the easement. The only way around the 674.41, that's the other lot we talked about, correct? Is to create a new subdivision showing the two lots as they are with the easement for the planning board to approve with a shared driveway, or the applicant to go to the selectmen to try and have it approved as a private road. Even if it was approved as a private road, he'd still have the issue with not meeting the town's grade allowance of 10%. Mr. Meany said he cannot issue a permit unless the Board of Fire Wards, Planning Board, and Selectmen pass it. Mr. Merrill would need to get variances from the Planning Board, or from the Zoning Board, excuse me. Let me start that sentence again. Mr. Merrill said he would need to get variances from the Zoning Board for hardship and for an appeal to the administrative decision for Mr. Meany not issuing a building permit. But the land was denied 10 years ago, so it should not be considered again by the board unless new information was presented. The board discussed many scenarios to reconfigure, redirect, or relocate the driveway, and Mr. Merrill thanked them for the thought they are putting into this matter. That's the last thing that I could find on this issue in those minutes. So that's where, so I guess the question that I have is, you talked about the fire pond, basically, but this seems to be, has anything gone forward with any of this stuff with the planning, with the
biggest-
I'm sorry, the fire wards, the planning board, and the selectmen must pass it, so.
The biggest issue on that lot right now, other than just getting rid of me repairing the fire pond, is that it was never gone through the town as being a shared driveway. So it went through the town attorney, and the town attorney issued a statement in writing that says what I have to do, and one of, the first one was for the town to declare one of the RSA laws, because it hadn't been used, but it had been. The driveway is all basically in. The 19% grade that was there is no longer there. And in fact, Scott Densmore and some of the other fire people have seen it. The chief, the last chief has seen it, or maybe the chief before. I don't know how many there's been. Probably, I don't know if you've seen it or not.
I don't remember seeing it, George, no.
But, and the other part of the being approved by the town is I have to get a shared driveway maintenance agreement signed by the neighbor whose driveway I would be using. Those are the two conditions that I have to meet. This is one of the conditions that I don't think applies to me as far as the fire pond being operational. And it's in my deed that I have a right to use that. But this is all planning board stuff. The only, the only thing I'm here for is for the fire pond, which you are the Board of Fire Wards. As far as the planning board, And what I have to do with the neighbor is a total different issue than what I am here for tonight. The neighbors do not want me to use their driveway. They don't want anybody to build up there. So they refuse to sign a maintenance agreement. So I've been told by somebody that sits on a board that it's a civil issue. So I actually have to take them to court. And it's in my deed. They signed their deed, so they signed everything in the deed. So, but I don't know if I want to spend $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, you know. So I'm just trying to clear up everything that I can, so if I sell it, the next person in line, or the next owner, the only thing they'll have to contend with is to take these people to court. Which I don't know if I'm gonna do it or not, depends on the cost.
So you just need from us just to say, you just need from us like a yay or nay for the fire pond,
Yeah,
right?
like it's, you know, the town rules
And
clearly state the fourth lot.
I'm pretty
Well,
sure you just read
but-
the minutes said that Billy Bovair was responsible for that fire pond.
Right.
Right.
Right
And-
at the beginning, so.
But, I've actually looked at the driveway from 2013. I was on the board then, and I went up there and looked at it. It appears that the discussion, and I wasn't there in 2007, but it appears that the discussion is that, A, it's a long driveway, 800 feet's a really long driveway.
It is.
For firefighting purposes, and to compound that problem, it's also a very steep driveway, which is a real problem, especially in inclement weather with top-heavy trucks. And so, let's go back to that '07 minutes if we could, because I want to understand, you know, why, you know, why this was talked about. It said again, George Merrill, now that we've had this discussion, let's read it again. George Merrill came in to discuss Bill Bovair, lot number 406-51.3 on River Road. He is interested in purchasing a lot. The driveway is approximately 800 feet long. This is an approved subdivision. Bill Bovair will be required to get the standpipe at the fire pond working again. Let me stop, because let's take this a piece at a time. So, I'm speculating that Bill Bovair owned the lot at this time. You hadn't purchased it yet.
He did the whole subdivision.
But I'm saying it says to discuss Bill Bovair lot 406-51.3. Talking, and it says George Mill came in to discuss. I'm assuming that means you.
Yes, because I bought
Is
it.
interested, so at the time of this discussion, Bill Bovair owned the land, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so Bill Bovair will be required to get the standpipe at the fire pond working again. Seems like that was almost like a condition of their, if it was approved. It says he will need to install a sprinkler system in the house. Bobby's willing to work with Bill to fix the standpipe. Bobby would like for George to come back when he has a building plan. So I'm not sure that, it sounds to me like that aside from the town requirement of the fourth lot, was that for this specific lot, because, and I'm speculating because of the steepness and the length of the driveway, that it's possible that that was all put together in that.
it was put together that way because everybody thought I was the fourth lot, which
I
triggered.
don't have anything that says that here.
Oh,
It just says, you know, and so, that's why I'm wondering why that was a requirement, not being the fourth lot.
on the Board of Fire Wards meeting on July 9th, 2013, in the second paragraph, it says, Steve Roberts moved to table this driveway application until they get more information. Chief Bob Venza, second. Discussion, he was conditionally approved before because of the fire pond, which still has not been fixed. Mr. Merrill recently discovered that his driveway is not the one that affects the fire pond. All voted in favor.
All voted in favor to table the application.
Correct.
Right.
And it's still on the table.
So,
And it's been, how many years? Be 10 years, 9 years.
Right, so, in my recollection, in 2013, after that meeting, is it true that you didn't come back to the fire wards?
I came back, no, I didn't, I did not come back after that.
That's the last one that
tonight.
I could find.
Pardon?
That was the last one I could find about this.
I didn't bring them all with me.
And so that, my recollection is then I don't believe it was brought up again at our board.
Well, let's bring it up now then.
So, but,
so, but you're willing to sprinkle the house, right?
I agreed to sprinkle the house, I'll
Okay,
put it in the deed,
and the cistern obviously was a Bill Bovair thing,
and
as
nobody's,
stated in those minutes, so I don't
nobody's ever
really see a
approached Bill.
big
I'm
issue.
sorry, I didn't
It's
mean to
the
interrupt.
third
No, no.
lot, not the fourth, so it shouldn't be required anyway for him to fix it.
So,
Make a motion, I'll second.
wait a minute. If, can you just give me a second, though,
We can
before we
discuss
do
after the
that?
motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'll make a motion. I would motion that we, grant, remove the condition to fix the fire pond for driveway approval.
I'll second that.
That, excuse me, what was that again?
I'll second that.
Yeah, what was the motion again? I wanna make sure I
That
have it
we remove the condition to require the fire pond be fixed to allow for the driveway permit.
So,
So the driveway permit is not something the Board of Fire Wards puts together, that's something that the planning board or something.
we have to
else.
approve driveways that are, especially that are long driveways. We have a spec for that.
And what is the spec?
That it's filed with the planning board. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it has to do with grade of, the steepness of the grade, has to do with turning radiuses, approach,
But I thought
turnaround,
He addressed that, I
turn
thought.
around at the top.
I thought that you
I-
said the grade had been filled,
Say again?
I thought that you addressed the grade.
I can't hear you.
Had you addressed the grade of the driveway?
I have
Not-
addressed the grade, I have that rules and regulation
So
as
does it
far as
does it
60-foot turning radius. I moved the driveway to the left purposely to get a 60-foot radius in the turn. It does have a turnaround up on top, the driveway is roughed clear to where the house will sit.
Does it meet the, grade requirements?
It does not, and that's why they want me to sprinkle the house.
How far off is it?
I haven't had a surveyor in there since it was up around 19, but I brought it down, I would guess it's down around a 12 at the steepest. And the driveway it comes off from, once you go beyond the split, where you go to my lot or go to the lot that was already there, their driveway is probably equally as steep or steeper than mine. I made mine as long as I could, because the longer it takes to get up there, the easier you can adjust the grade. And I'm right to the property line on one side, and I've gone almost completely to the opposite side, which is 200 feet wide, to make that turning radius. It's all nit pack, a coarse, heavy nit pack. You can stop in the middle of it and take right off, and, in two-wheel drive of a pickup.
I'd like to see a plan.
Pardon?
I'd like to see a plan for that, to see what the actual grades are.
He's willing to put a sprinkling system in the house, that's kind of
Right, I
And
can-
it's
a
not
big
really the,
thing, that's, that's expensive, and two, that's good.
It's a lot.
You know what I mean, like, that's a
Yeah.
good thing, as fire
It's a
prevention.
third lot too, isn't it?
Yeah, third lot.
I'm not seeing anywhere that, the initial conditions, it seems to me, were that it's a fourth lot and the driveway was terrible. Now we're looking at, it's a better driveway and it's a third lot. So is the driveway and the number of lots actually tied together? Or is this two separate issues that we're pushing? I don't know the answer to that, this is all before my time.
I mean, at the end of it.
Sound like two separate issues to
So
me.
it sounds like to go forward though, you need to show them that that part, requirement for the fire pond to be repaired needs to be removed, and that needs to be shown in the minutes for the
I
planning
can't hear
board.
for beans.
Sorry. So it sounds like, to me, that if we remove any requirement, and it's in the minutes, for the fire pond to be repaired, then you can go to the planning board and take your next step with the
Well,
driveway.
I've already been to the planning board on several steps ahead, and the final approval comes down to those people signing a maintenance agreement other than the fire pond issue.
Okay,
So if the fire pond issue is resolved, then the only thing I've got ahead of me is the maintenance agreement, which they won't sign, so that means I gotta take it to court.
But for our end, it's just the fire pond. Just for this board, it's just the fire pond, right?
Okay.
Is the only thing that you're looking to get
today.
situated today.
No, I just want that removed,
Yeah.
that was a requirement, and I've
Yeah.
already said I'll sprinkle the house in lieu of, of the steepness of the driveway. And the driveway has been looked at several times, by, probably at least 3 times.
So, in your, you all set? I'm sorry.
I'm done.
Okay. So in the motion, we're removing the requirement for the fire pond repair, but we're not saying that he has to sprinkle the house?
No, we're agreeing that he will sprinkle.
Is
the
that
house.
in the
Yeah,
motion?
I agree.
It was not in the
We
motion.
can do it,
Alright.
I can amend the motion.
I mean, we have no teeth to say he has to sprinkle the house unless we say he has to do it.
I think the planning board said that.
I'm gonna,
think
I'll
somebody
put it in the
already said
deed that
that.
the house has to be sprinkled.
Did the planning
it's-
board specifically require it?
Yes, yes, by all means.
But somebody else has already done that.
Right, so,
This went along so far that I've had a septic design. The building inspector came and inspected bed bottom. So I already pulled a permit on doing the septic. All the fill, he approved the bed bottom, so I put all the fill in. And since then, the septic design has expired once. I renewed it once, and I'm not renewing it again because until everything's finalized, and whoever I sell it to, or if I go in there, all I gotta do is renew it with the state. Nothing has changed as far as the shape of the land or anything, so. But, it even went so far that, like I said, Chip came out and inspected bed bottom, so everything was on the go, but the town has done nothing about forcing Billy Weare to approve that fire pond.
Do we know if that fire pond was ever accepted by the town?
I think it was accepted, and Billy was supposed to deed it over, and it's in my deed, and it's in the neighbor's deed, that the fire department has a right to maintain it. And somewhere along the line, vandals got in there and plugged it up, and I think the fire department went down and tried to pump it, and it wouldn't work, and so that was a requirement for Billy to get it repaired.
We had an issue with the strainer on the end.
Yep,
We got a new strainer, hired a diver to go down and fix it. So the
Yep.
strainer's been fixed, but after that point is when they filled it full of rocks.
was it after that, or it was,
It was after that.
okay, so
Yep.
it's still full of
'Cause
rocks?
we fixed the strainer and it worked fine.
Oh, it did?
And then it was like the next year when we went to flow it, we discovered it was full of rocks. And the cap was actually gone. So they took the cap off and kids just put rocks down there and who knows how many there is in there, but it won't draft.
And I met Billy there once, and he took a torch, he must have put a new cap on at one point,
Yeah, could've,
and he had to heat it to get it off.
yep. Yeah, I don't know.
So, in the planning board minutes that I have here, the 3 copies of the 3 meetings, July 11th, 2013, July 25th, 2013, and August 8th. I don't see any approvals on here conditioning, I don't even see any approvals on here. There's nothing, there's really no, I don't see a mention of the sprinkler system in here at all.
Well, back then it wasn't.
Okay, so when did you get the approval? You said you had approval from the planning board that you could,
It's
when,
far-
I guess we're saying that if somebody approved the condition of the sprinkler system going in the house, if that doesn't get done, then we have no teeth to ensure that that is happening. And I don't see it in the planning board minutes that that was included in there. So that, if,
Well, they left it up to the Board of Fire Wards, which is why I've been to 4 or 5 meetings here.
yeah, so we have the, July 9th, 2007. It says that Bill Bover will be required to get the stand pump pipe at the fire pond working again. He will need to install a sprinkler system in the house. But it doesn't show here where there was a vote taken on that.
Doesn't say what?
It doesn't show where there was a vote taken on that in the minutes.
So can we vote to do that now then, and make that part of the thing, get rid of the fire pond and put on a sprinkler system? We'll just add to Leah's motion?
I could amend my motion.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that,
You know what I mean?
you know,
That way it's covered on
Yeah.
our end, the planning board's end, and
I think the main issue here isn't anything to do with the planning board, it's to do with the fire pond just being stricken that I don't have to repair it. And it said in those minutes you just read that the town was gonna require Billy Bover to fix it.
I know that.
How's that going?
Well, again, it doesn't say that a vote was taken here, so I don't know what, yeah.
so then let's vote on it now. Let's make it so that way it's,
It will be in the minutes.
and then it will be in the minutes, and then it will be voted on, that they have to have a sprinkler system in the house in lieu of fixing the fire pond.
So,
I will retract my motion if you would like to make that motion.
I'll make a motion to, I don't know how to word it, essentially.
You just said.
I just did.
Make it so, that George can get his driveway approved if he sprinkles the house, if the house that's being built up there in that lot is sprinkled, then he doesn't have to repair the fire pond.
Okay, so I have Killian Donnelly moves driveway approval permitted if the house being built on the lot has a sprinkler system.
Don't need to repair the fire
In
pond.
lieu of fire pond repair.
I don't know if that's really good in lieu of.
No, I
It
don't.
should never been in there to begin with.
Okay. Sprinkler system, and there is no requirement. You
Yeah.
can just say, there is no requirement to repair the fire pond.
I'm good with that.
I'll second it.
okay, motion's made and seconded. Any more questions
I
or
think we should
discussion?
put the actual lot number in that, so that it
Okay,
Oh,
It's
yep.
50,
so that it
it is,
pops up.
hold on,
Somewhere here.
406 dash, wait a minute, that's,
No, it's 51-3.
okay,
Yeah.
so it's lot 406 dash 51.3 or dash 3, it's,
.3.
yeah, it says different things in different places, but I think that's, and that's what yeah, 406 51.3, okay. Anything else?
I'll just read it back.
Sure.
Killian Donnelly moves driveway approval for George Merrill for lot 406-51.3 be permitted, conditioned upon the house being built on the lot has a sprinkler system installed, and there is no requirement to repair the fire pond.
Is there any other questions or discussion?
Nope.
All
I
right,
don't think so.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. And abstain. 610, 610 on that. That help you?
That helps me.
All right.
It's one less hurdle,
Thank you for coming in.
and thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, is there anything else under, old business? Do you have anything for old business?
I did get some more price in hose testing. I'm just gonna wait till next year, cause I found that the, rescue tools apparently were not serviced last year, so I've okayed that, the testing for that. I have the estimate there. I guess this is old, there's an open PO for protective clothing. So I'm shopping and gonna go ahead and buy that. It's encumbered from last year, the money's encumbered from last year, so there's enough there for possibly 2 sets of gear.
Can you repeat that?
There's an open PO for gear, protective clothing from last year, encumbered funds. So I'm shopping and I'm gonna go ahead and get that ordered. It's gonna take between 5 and 7 months to get it, so I wanna get that money spent before December 31st. That's kinda new. That's a new project. The tanker, I guess, that's kinda new but old. We had a problem with the pump. I contacted Perkins. They came out and found that there was quite a bit of damage in the pump. So they took the pump back to their shop and took it apart and repaired it. Its truck's back in service now. I called him today to get a bill, and he has not in the area. He's out on vacation, so we'll have to wait to get a bill for that. I've already kind of talked to Beth about an estimated cost, so we can see where that's gonna be. So that's all it gets for that, for old, I guess.
Okay.
I have, if anyone else doesn't have old business.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, because I wasn't here last time, if we were gonna revisit the policy for, filling open shifts at the fire department. If we'll continue that discussion, cause it seemed
Well-
like it was left off. Did we find out if there is a policy?
I couldn't tell you. I can't find anything.
Okay, so
So-
it's probably safe to assume that there is not.
Either that or there is and we can't find it, so.
Is there anywhere that all the policies live? Like, is there one central location for all of the policies that the Board of Fire Wards has set? And if not, why? Does anybody, I mean, you've been on the board the longest, you know if there's anywhere that we could just sit down and say, oh, look, here's the book with all the
Yeah,
policies the Board of Fire Wards has set.
Yeah, before I became chairman, when I took over as chairman, I got absolutely nothing for paperwork. I assume that everything that we got voted through went into a book in the fire station at least. But I'm not sure of that.
I stopped to see Beth about this last week. Essentially, we operate under the town personnel policy with a few deviations. Any deviations we have, separate policies, she had copies of, which she sent to me as soon as I find them. Because I knew this was going to come up.
Should we pass the manifest
Want my contacts?
Well, in the
You can-
meantime,
So,
was that one of the policies that was deviated from?
There were, I don't think there was anything that specifically addressed open shifts. There were swaps, substitutions, vacation.
so, I,
So
we, go ahead.
we're in virgin territory here, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, because the town, I mean, the fire station has never been a full-time fire department with only full-time staff members and a call staff, so there is probably no policy that states you must fill open shifts with a full-time staff member. There is probably, and it's in the contracts of the full-time fire,
We don't have
Department.
contracts.
well,
So-
whatever, I mean, if you were to tell, the chief can mandate that Wayne take a shift. The chief can mandate that another full-time employee take an open shift. It doesn't say that it has to be another full-time member, but they can mandate so that the shifts are always covered. So this is where I think we're in virgin territory. We've never had any situations where you've had the opportunity or not to fill an open shift with somebody other than a full-time fire department member because you didn't have full-time fire department members.
So I disagree with you in that, it doesn't just, it's not just because of the full-time people coming on. When we started the per diem program in 2010, we attempted to get paramedic, at least one paramedic on shift, and, also fire certifications, driver, like CDL, driver operator, whatever that meant. And when we couldn't, we made sure that we had 2 EMS providers that were licensed for the ambulance. And so in the hiring of the full-time people, we have, they have requirements of the job, which include, to be driver, et cetera, of the apparatus. So, I think that's kinda like apples and orange, that,
Okay, qualified members.
I'm just saying that that,
If what you're saying is that you would only be able to bring someone in to cover another full-time shift if they had their CDL, you know, if you wanna put that in the policy, okay, but, I mean, I think we need to have something that says, this is the policy of the fire department, this is how we are going to staff and fill shifts.
I agree with you, I'm just saying that it wasn't just because we hired full-time people. It was that, that's the standard that we're looking for.
Right.
For those shifts.
So if you needed to fill 2 shifts in the same day, so if there were both members of a squad were out, then you would need to, by that reason, at least have 2 qualified EMTs or have somebody with a CDL. I'm not certain what.
But if we have people that have those qualifications available, then it's in our best interest to have them working.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'm just saying that, it wasn't simply because we had full-time people that things changed with the requirements.
Well, scheduling and this is a new, this is definitely a new blip. In the absent policy, that, you know, filling positions should they or should they not be made available to any qualified fire department member, I guess is the question. Regardless of their part-time or full-time status.
Well, if you're looking at it as serving the people that we are here representing, the taxpayers of the town, it would be better to not pay overtime. You know, we need to provide the best service at the best price to the taxpayers. You know, that, it seems like a no-brainer that those shifts should be open and not mandated to a full-time department member who then would be receiving overtime. If there is a qualified part-time member who can fill it.
And again, it's not saying that it would automatically do that, just be put open.
Just be available to
And
everybody.
then if, again, not to get into the weeds of, then what do you do as far as scheduling, and who's doing the scheduling, things like that, that would be something that would happen within the fire department.
So then, to start with, I think that we need to establish what the minimum requirements are, and then stick by that, no matter who it is, to start with.
I have found that email, of course, I don't have enough service here. When I get back to the station, I can forward that email to all of you. If you piece of time, just to, I should have all your email addresses. So I can send that to all of you, we can review it at another time, because the current policies do address substitutions, how do we cover somebody that's on vacation, how do we cover somebody that's out sick? So we already have policies in place for that. The only thing that's a real issue right now are the overtime shifts. That has to be addressed. We don't have anything that specifically covers overtime shifts.
I think there, well, as you said, there should be a requirement of what the minimum qualifications are
What it currently
to.
states is whoever is out, whoever is replacing them has to be mutually qualified as approved by the fire chief. In as much as an EMT is an EMT, an advanced EMT is an A, medic is a medic, but if somebody is out, medic and advanced EMT are mutually qualified to fill that shift. We do not want, we're trying to avoid running into a shift where we have a double basic truck. Currently, we
Which
have,
makes sense.
every truck is an A-level truck. That's good. So that's what we're trying to do
On the EMS side,
on the EMS side.
On the EMS.
Everybody's fire qualified, so.
I'm talking about the call firefighters, part-time, whoever else we're talking about here to fill shifts.
Even at that, all of our current call members, with the exception of one, are EMS licensed. Some at the A level, some at the B level. That hasn't been addressed, how to plug them into the schedule.
But what I'm saying is, what about firefighting and or driving certifications?
On the call side, I think there are very few CDL drivers. Everybody has been signed off to drive the ambulance. Everybody's qualified for that.
But, so that is covered anyway, sounds like in that policy, if it says that they have to be mutually qualified, contingent upon the chief's approval for the shift. So,
And
I
if you
mean,
have
that's covered.
a two-man team, if one person is, if the person who's not out, the standard person is a firefighter and has a CDL, is that good enough? Or do both?
Not in my book,
Do both have to
because
be?
both need to.
if you have one person that's not fire certified or is a driver,
What do they
then
do
they
with-
stand outside and do nothing at a fire call. But if you've got, no, because if the other person is the certified firefighter, driver, operator, they have to run the pump and go fight the fire. And to Leah's point about what's affordable for the taxpayers is that we could hire somebody off the street to drive a piece of equipment to the scene, but we have standards of qualifications that when we hire people, we want them to meet. We like to have call people as trained and certified as possible, but we can't mandate it at all levels, but these are people that are in the station doing coverage, and the town has voted basically for this level of coverage and approving the money to pay for it. So, I see a lot of problems with just filling the shifts. I don't wanna say with a body, because everybody's valuable, but we have that minimum qualification for full-time people, and so we should, if we're covering those full-time positions, then they should meet that qualification.
That's exactly where the rub comes in. If you're trying to fill that position that has a job requirement, whoever is filling it has to be mutually qualified.
But I'll go further than that and just say, what is the minimum to be hired full-time?
Depends on your position. In my position, the minimum is advanced EMT, firefighter one, CDL.
Okay, what if you're a basic EMT?
That's another job position.
But what's the requirements for that, do you know?
Basic EMT, firefighter one, CDL.
Okay, then that should be our minimum to fill a shift requirements, in my opinion.
Currently it is.
That's, yeah.
It states in our policy, must be mutually qualified.
Well, I'm trying to get away from the medic versus medic, but to be a full-time person in our department,
Yeah, that's in the job description.
you have to be level one
Yep.
driver, CDL driver.
Right. The difference, of course, group one and group two. Group one is how to be worded, it's an emergency rescue technician. Group two is full-time firefighter. So the job description is
Okay.
slightly different.
Okay,
Qualifications, group two requires CPAP, group one does not. Other than that,
so in my opinion, that should be the minimum coverage qualification.
which I think Wayne said it is.
currently it is.
I'm talking of going forward,
Oh.
that's,
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that.
anybody else?
I just want a copy of that so I can read it.
Yeah, I'll see if I can email it out right now. Maybe somebody else can open it.
Can't get anything, so.
Maybe.
Ten smoke signals.
Chief, here's the only address I have in this mailbook. Send it to you.
What am I gonna do with it?
Maybe you can open it. My phone will not.
Mine won't.
Yours won't?
Well, you'll have to open it.
Yeah, you literally have to open it.
It's like my brother. Fused.
It's a tool, it's all I want.
He, well, I just got Cody's. It just barely popped up. Oh, gosh.
So,
I'll forward that. I think we're gonna have to talk about it in another meeting.
yeah, talk about
The
it.
overtime policy.
I make a motion to,
Well, just Christina freshened that up to include swaps and stuff.
Yeah, I have all of those here.
Recently, like the last week,
Okay. I haven't seen that.
no, it's a draft right across it.
Okay, I don't have
Yeah.
that.
But I felt kinda bad here for a little bit, but it doesn't look like we're gonna address it tonight anyway, so,
yeah, I make a
So
motion.
we'll have a draft policy for next time?
yes.
Okay.
Well, she looked, I hadn't sat down and looked at it, cause I had a bunch of other stuff going on, but, one of the issues, and I've talked to a handful of my peers on how to deal with it, was we have an overtime shift that wanted to get swapped, okay? So, they swapped the overtime shift. Is that shift ever gonna get paid back at overtime? Probably it is now, because we've got so much of it, but my concern is, that overtime shifts, from everybody that I've talked to, overtime shifts should not be swapped. They should be, given back, as they call it. And then the next available person would take that overtime shift, which may be okay, but you may have a person that's done a swap on straight time, they've swapped an overtime shift, and now they're working their next day, and you may be outside of the 48 hours allowable, overtime. So that's another thing that needs to be addressed. Don't think it's been a huge issue, but,
So
you
the,
can see where it may be.
yeah, I'm sorry, I dumped my packet. It wasn't real organized to begin with. I'm not even sure if I brought it or if I left it on my desk.
Sitting in the cow pasture,
Come on now.
reading the
I
policy.
did look at the policy that we voted for, and I don't, on swaps, and it said that the town will incur no cost.
That's right, and
For that.
everybody said that.
Yeah, so,
It doesn't, if it involves anything to do with, overtime or
Yeah.
extra, it's not.
I also think that if you accept a shift for overtime, you shouldn't swap it, so we probably wanna put that in the policy.
Well,
You're mandating though.
Cause
you
that,
don't have a choice.
It's
You're
not an
mandated
acceptance
for
thing,
overtime.
you're told you will.
So it's not.
so how about this? If this'll help, we put that in there that you can't then swap an overtime
Can I
shift that
just
you've.
read this,
Oh,
because this is from a pretty reliable source. So this is the language, I'm gonna skip a little bit of it, because it talks about union contracts and stuff. Language for swaps, you may also wanna add overtime shifts shall not be swapped.
I was just gonna say that.
Any overtime shifts should be given back, shall be offered to the next eligible person, as detailed in the policy,
I got something else too.
a policy, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you have mandated overtime and you don't want it, can you get somebody else to work it?
You can give it away. That's
So-
what we're doing currently.
Yeah.
You can either give it away or you can swap it.
Okay,
There.
so I think that takes care of the mandatory part, cause if somebody's willing to work a swap,
Here's where it doesn't.
okay,
It's whatever, tomorrow, somebody has an overtime shift. 6:30 in the morning, they come in, they swab. Nope, I'm out. Now what do you do? Right, they're COVID positive, they're sick, they broke their leg, whatever. It's an overtime shift and you gotta fill it. How do we do that currently? What we do right now is you pick up the phone, you call somebody, hey, can you take my overtime shift? Great, but if nobody can take it, how do we fill it?
places that I used to work, you couldn't go home until your replacement got there.
Get COVID, can't stay. I broke my leg, I can't walk.
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay. Gee, I don't know about that.
We don't have a policy to address this, and that's what we need to do.
Yeah, okay.
Where's the
The other
bathroom?
thing that really screwed it up recently, we had a system that worked well. Whoever had the lowest number of overtime hours was up next. Knew that going into it, you could be called at any time. Because of our current staffing shortages, we know we have overtime shifts coming. So we tried to fill them, so you can kind of plan a little bit, right? You
Yeah.
don't get a phone call at 6 in the morning. That worked great, but then another person went out. Now what do you do? So it's kind of snowballing. So that's where we need to address how to fill the open shifts and what to do about overtime swaps. I think
Okay.
giving it back and then putting it out is probably the best plan.
Well, that's what they all said, and these guys talked to each other to help me out,
Yep.
so that's what so, blah, 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 blah. Swap shifts are between individuals and the responsibility of the individual agreeing to swap. Then he put a little language in here about where fire is not responsible for any swap disputes between individuals. If the swap fails to cover the agreed upon shift, the person responsible for initiating the swap is responsible for covering the shift. That makes sense to me. At no time shall an agreement upon a swap create overtime related directly to the swap. All of these are thoughts for you to incur, as long as the town doesn't incur cost. Members shall have the right to exchange shifts off and/or shifts of equal length when the changes do not affect the staffing levels. Blah, blah, blah. Designated officer who is approved shall not be unreasonably withheld. It's understood that swaps will not impact the calculation of overtime. That's what they came up with, so we can throw some of that around when we sit down next time, I guess.
All right, we'll try to, yeah.
I'm going mutual aid Wednesday night, and if I see anybody else, I'll ask them to, matter of fact, I'll put it out, bring their overtime swap policies, and,
That's a good, yeah.
and then, or email it to
Pretty
me.
good.
It's good to steal it from somebody else.
Oh, it is, so we better steal it, just to make
All
it
right.
yourself.
That's right. Okay, any further discussion on that, or? We good? Okay. What else we got?
Wanna talk about CDLs a little bit, it's a lot harder to
So
get a
we
CDL.
move into new business?
Yeah, why don't we do?
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Hold on, I got my stuff on top of
So,
the agenda.
we have a couple of,
Are you still working on that?
Yep, almost done.
Okay,
Sorry.
sorry.
so CDLs, it's a lot harder now to get a CDL license than it ever has been. It is, well, there's really, Wayne might help me out here, there's really no,
So in the past, we used to train our people, and they could then go to DMV, take a written test, and we would hire a trooper to come out and go through the pre-trip and the road test. And that was a fairly cheap cost. New Hampshire changed the rules, I'm not sure who and how, but the rules have changed, that now require any CDL applicant to go through a commercial, shouldn't say commercial, through a course before they get their CDL. Like a New England tractor trailer driving school, something like this, commercial school. It's about $5,000 to put a driver through that. So, obviously, we can't swallow that cost. And I don't think you can force it on a prospective firefighter to say, you're gonna spend $5,000 so you can get a job in Weare, when he can go to Nashua and make more money without having to get a CDL. There are other options, there are ways around it. We could become a training site. There was some discussion about DPW doing that, it hasn't gone anywhere. I don't know, we could do it, but we have to, so. The simplest thing, my opinion, is to remove the requirement of a CDL for our drivers.
I've been through this before and talked extensively to DOT, the municipal folks, whatever they call it. Anyways.
Good requirement to have.
And, the big issue is that the CDL, we are exempt, as far as the fire department goes, for emergency vehicles. The question was, what is an emergency vehicle? A fire truck is an emergency vehicle going to a fire, right? What if
Fire
it's,
truck is an emergency vehicle.
okay, well, but, okay. So, the question was asked, is it an emergency vehicle when it's going to get fuel?
Yes,
Is it an emergency vehicle when it's going for repair?
yes.
And so the question was answered that probably this question will get answered when there's a crash, and the fire truck was not necessarily going to or returning from an emergency, of what, whether it is or is not an emergency vehicle. So from a liability standpoint, we're way better off. And the other thing is that it also answers the question of liability in, it's like a third-party authorization. It's not us saying that that person's qualified to drive, because if we remove the requirement of CDL, then somebody or the department has to say, somehow that person has to be deemed qualified to drive that apparatus.
Right.
And again, in a crash, that will be answered at the court.
Well,
So, that's what I've been through, because this isn't the first time this has come up.
Manchester doesn't require it, Nashua doesn't require it, Concord doesn't require it.
They crash all the time.
The entire US Army does not require it. As long as you are properly trained and your supervisor signs you off, you are qualified to drive this vehicle, and you're qualified. Anybody with a CDL, if you're driving a traditional truck, it's nothing like a fire engine. A tanker truck is a tanker truck. If you've driven tankers, they're all the same, but a fire engine does not drive the same as a Peterbilt. So you still have to be trained and signed off by the chief, regardless if you have a CDL. So it ultimately comes down to the training. That's my argument.
So, when you say it costs $5,000, that's a complete program?
Yeah.
So they, from classroom to, they provide you a truck for
Classroom,
the test,
here's your
correct?
license.
So is there a way to piecemeal it where, I mean,
Not currently.
I'm assuming you have to be a qualified instructor to
Well-
teach the class.
Here's where that rub comes in. We can apply and become a training site, we being Weare Fire or Weare DPW, whoever. You have to have a curriculum. The state doesn't care what it is, you have to have one. Training program, videos, online classroom, however you do it. And then, it's X number of hours, I don't remember how many. Then they have to have so many hours of driving, take the written test, take the road test. Some of it's the same. Through all of that, if I were to become a trainer, now you're paying me overtime, to train these people 40 hours, it's still $5,000, so.
How many hours do they have to do over the road for
It's not many.
training? Well, so if you put if you train one-on-one, then it's expensive, but if you did a whole class full of people.
Well, here's the thing, we're not gonna hire
What are you
8
gonna
people.
do?
We're gonna hire 1 people.
Well, I mean,
Well, from here on out, they gotta have their CDL.
Again, if we require them,
Yeah.
and I'm
Take
gonna
the
give
job.
you $18 an hour, you can go to Nashville.
That's true, I'll give you
make
that.
23 without one. This whole recruitment and retention,
I'll give you that.
Well, if there's an exemption in the law, it's obviously for a reason, because of this challenge that's presented by requiring a CDL. And if it comes down to training in a fire truck regardless, then the CDL is really arbitrary.
I don't agree with that. It's a third-party certification.
What else do we need, I mean, besides like, you know, your
I don't think
CPAT and all of that?
I don't think it's worth nothing. It's a
I'm sure there are
third-party
competencies that
certification
are signed off
saying,
in the fire department too.
I guess it depends on the person signing off.
I think our chief would be qualified to determine, right? You know, if someone can handle the apparatus or not.
well, that is another problem, is just because you have a CDL doesn't mean you're qualified to drive that truck. That's with
Well.
experience.
But they have, the people
So a
that,
third party said they were okay,
right,
but they're not.
Well, they have a program that they follow, and they have a lot of experience with a lot of people doing that. So, I guess there's exceptions to everything, but generally, it's an accepted third-party certification.
I can't remember what the guy's name is, but the state DOT just hired a guy, and that's all he's doing, is CDL. I can talk to him. He's actually coming to do a presentation for me the 20th of next month on just that, CDL stuff. I don't think it's like, it's not gonna get cured tonight for sure, but, we need to really straighten that out, because we're gonna run into problems down the road if we don't.
So I understand Goffstown's gonna be putting on a class?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
I heard they might.
Fire or DPW?
I thought it was the fire department. Let me check on that.
Well,
I don't know if it's anybody can go from the outside of there,
At this
but,
point, you don't have anybody that needs it.
Well, like
think it's
T
more
Square
along.
over in, at UNH there, they do, public work stuff and all this stuff all the time. I'm pretty tight with her, email almost daily, cause it's a lot of their training, safety training stuff that I deal with her on. Yeah, I can send it out to her, and Primex, I don't know if they could chime in, they're the insurance people.
they're certainly worth a shot.
Yeah.
Our insurance doesn't require CDL, by the way.
So, yeah, I mean, right, so that's, state says a mouthful right there, and I don't think, if Goffstown's giving a class, that's great, but we don't need somebody to take the class right now. We're looking, this is a long-term sort of policy that we need to think about. Like, what are we gonna do when two of our staff members find jobs somewhere else, and now we have to hire two more firefighters, full-time firefighters?
Cause they went to Nashville.
Cause they went to Nashua, yeah.
Or Manch.
Or Manch.
And, it's certainly not unheard of, and I think it's probably in our future, so it was something that we should probably think about, because this is going to be a problem.
It sounds like one of those just burdensome regulations that are presenting a barrier to hiring and, keeping costs low.
I in 30 plus I don't know how many years of service and all the training that I've been through and the situations that I've been in, I don't agree with that.
You have to have a CDL
Yes,
to work in Goffstown?
yes.
Okay.
So we can table it.
I gotta renew mine in November.
So, and it's, that's the thing is that, you can drive a 60,000-pound motorhome with an operator's license in this,
That's true.
in pretty much the whole country.
And not be good at it.
When I was active duty,
But,
I drove an 80,000-pound truck towing tractor trailers with a 15-minute block of instruction. See ya. I could drive in any country in the world.
I don't know what kind of a training program that you guys had, but I'm sure it was pretty extensive.
It was 15 minutes.
Yeah, but you had nothing before that?
I came off the farm.
Oh, wow. Then I'm really disappointed.
Well, that's the entire US Army, Marine Corps. You get your block of instruction, sign it, off you go.
Okay, all right.
Good.
What's next for new business, I guess? Unless we need to make a motion to,
Sounds like we're gonna
Pause.
get more information.
Well, yeah, and I was hoping that Sean would text me back, but he hasn't.
All right, is there anything else on the new business, chief?
I want to redo this negligent fee ordinance that also incorporates paramedic intercepts and intermediate intercepts. It's old, it's 2003, still in effect. Beth didn't even know about it this morning when I talked to her about it. So I'll freshen this up, if it's okay with you, and bring that back for,
Is that what we charge if we
Yes.
go? Okay.
and the reason that we came up with this was, there's a bunch of reasons, but I'm gonna use one example. We go to a motor vehicle accident, we bring the engine, we bring the ambulance, and the police hook the person up for DWI. We don't get a transport, so we're out there with 2 pieces of equipment, 5 people, for an hour, and receive 0 compensation. Well, the negligent part of that was he was driving drunk, or he or she was driving drunk. We should be able to bill that. And we always used to bill that through the PD. We would hand them the bill, they would take the bill to court when they do the prosecution of that. The first year we did it, we did very well at it. We had somebody that was taking care of it in this building, in the finance, that you just give them a copy of the bill and they would make sure that they got paid. It kinda went away, and there's several occasions, a year that we really need to have that freshened up, and the selectmen signed it in 2003, so.
I thought you were talking about medic intercept.
Well, that's all in the same, it's
Okay,
all,
all right. Because do we currently charge if we go to another town?
we
They
do not, unless
transport?
unless they call for an intercept.
That's what I'm saying. If they call for an intercept, do we charge?
And, and we're getting charged for the intercept.
Right.
At the rate of like $550, and ours is $300 at this point.
Yeah.
It's not been, it hasn't been freshened up.
We'll get that back up.
I will freshen that up, bring it back, and then I'll bring it to the selectmen,
Okay.
if it's okay with you.
Yep.
Want me to keep going?
Well, I'm looking for new business right now, because I have an item, but I wanna get
Okay,
everybody else's stuff.
This is a grant application that I sent yesterday for the volunteer fire assistance grant I put in for protective clothing for brush, because it's through the Forest and Lands. We hadn't applied for it for quite a few years, so we're gonna try that. It's a 50-50 cost share. It'll be about $800 if we get it for us, our cost.
And that was PPE for like 10 people,
10, yeah. Ambulance radios. I have a new purchasing policy there, so I'm gonna have to search around and get some more prices, after searching around, I'm pretty happy with the Viking, Kenwood, radios. They're about half the cost of a Motorola, and everybody's saying that they're good, so. I guess we've made the decision, or I've made the decision on what we're gonna buy, it's just a matter of, where we're gonna get them from. I do have a price, I don't know if I have it with me. I don't think I do, from R&R Communications over in Swansea. No, I do not have it with me. They're about, $4,000 for the ambulance radio, and they're about $2,200 a piece for the portables.
Was that ambulance radio, was that in the budget for the,
It's all included in that, yeah, it's gonna come out of that.
right, and we budgeted for
Yeah,
enough to
cause
cover
it's,
that?
yeah, 'cause it's in the,
Okay.
well, I haven't even seen anything back from Lifeline yet, other than we've signed the contract. And they're waiting for the factory to
Yeah.
do the drawings and spec, and then we get it, review it, send it back.
So no word on a chassis yet, huh?
No word on a chassis. Although he did tell me it the other day, he said, says, we're getting them, it's just, slow.
Yeah.
When you got, I think he said he had 27 ordered when we ordered ours, so.
Got me.
Waiting on chassis, and it's no matter where you go, it's the same
We're in
thing.
a different world.
Folks, it was told, 2 years,
Oh,
and we was told 18 months, so.
Yeah. Okay, you good? for new
I'm
business?
good, except, go
Administrative
ahead.
report, right?
and then-
Okay. I've done a little bit of work on, just a preliminary, started some research on fire chief positions. And, so, we have, if we wanna do a warrant article, we have basically till the end of the year. I wouldn't suggest we wait that long to come up with something. So I thought it would be good for us to start working on that, you know, sooner than later, to get going on what we're looking for fire chief. The other thing, let me just say this, I guess here, is that our administrative person has resigned effective next Friday? Thursday, okay, so, so that's a part-time position. We used to have a person doing that was an EMT responder, so we had kind of a dual role. And then when that changed, and I'm not sure exactly the circumstances, but, so the last person that was in that position was not a responder. So we kind of lost that dual role position. So I've asked myself some questions concerning the fire chief position. We had Chief Azina in. His salary was about $65,000 a year, with not many benefits, as a part-time position. He got earned time prorated for his hours, and I think that was about it. So the question that we have to answer is what do we need to have? But I threw out about the administrative person because, one of my questions was, you know, since we have, and I don't think I have with me that salary. I think between the two salaries, it was around $89,000. If you combine those two salaries. If we go with full-time, chief, then we have to pay retirement, which is about 30%. And then I don't have a figure on the other benefits. So those are things to consider. One thing is I've talked to a lot of the, not all of them, but most of the full-time people. One of the things that they miss the most about the chief not being there is he was that third person that was available. And he wasn't just like the administrator, he actually worked with the people, went on calls. If they need a lift assist or an additional responder, somebody to drive the ambulance, whatever. It was good to have that third person, even though, now he was 30 hours a week. So if we hire another person as chief and it's part-time retired, he was grandfathered in the old rules for 30 hours because his job position didn't change. If we had changed his job description or his title or anything like that, he would have been bumped down to 25 hours. The new requirements for the retirement system is if you're retired, you can only work up to 25 hours a week. So that would hamper us in being able to, you know, hire a lot of the people that have the experience and the knowledge and the ability to manage in that position are retired. I'm not saying there aren't any, but they're very few. That's kind of like the situation. I do have some wage scales, and I just got a couple of some of this information I just barely got, so I haven't really gone through it myself really that much. I don't know if I have enough copies, so we might have to share some. Let me see what we got. This 3.
I mean,
This was a wage survey that was done by the New Hampshire Municipal Association.
Read that over here.
I guess I do have enough.
I got that.
So,
There's another one for
So
Once we-
has,
I mean, I understand like this, but once we start comparing and saying, oh, all the towns around us make more money and stuff like that, it doesn't really, to the voters, I think, you know what I mean?
well, I think we need a starting point.
Okay.
You know, I mean,
This is for full-time?
what are we gonna do, throw dots at the board and say that, what's it, we're gonna say? I mean, we gotta start somewhere, and so, one thing I'll say, in my experience when we hired our previous chief, there was no data out there about a part-time chief. We were like one of the first. Most of the chiefs were either full-time, or they were like on-call, paid their call hourly rate or a stipend. There wasn't any like full-fledged part-time that we could find. And so we weren't really sure what we should pay, and then we pretty quickly learned, based on when the town hired a part-time police chief, that we were really, you know, behind. And then we ended up getting wage surveys a couple of times in which we did get some good data on what other chiefs were getting on that part-time basis. So it's a starting point. So this has you can see the information there, and that's from the New Hampshire, I guess they send out the Municipal Association sends out a questionnaire. And so this where it says role Fire Chief FC, I think that means, and maybe that's just I'm not sure that.
I bet that stands for fire chief.
Yeah, I was thinking I was thinking full-time, but it, yeah, doesn't say that, so I don't know what that means, but probably fire chief, yeah. So then also, I asked Naomi if she could call around, if she had time, and ask some questions to get more information, and so I have these, and again, we might have to share these. See how many I have.
Thank you.
So I got one more. Yeah, if you and Dave can share. You want one too? I'll give you one. So this is, okay, this one is more, this one kind of like gives us more information. We tried to ask some questions, so pretty self-explanatory, full-time or part-time is the FT there, and their pay. And then, resident, if not, how far away, that's their,
Boston hired a full-time chief
I guess they're in contract negotiations with somebody,
for 90?
yeah, for
I know
full-time.
who it's not.
Say what?
I know who it's not.
And then, we asked how many years as chief, to just give us an idea, is this somebody that's been there for a while or somebody brand new? Their education requirements, their certification level requirements, the department size, because I don't think population alone tells the story. The department size, you know, it helps. It also depends on things like Northwood summer ads, 1,500 to 2,000, Laconia, weekends year-round busy because of gun stock, et cetera. I'm sure it's the same thing in Hampton, the Falls. Guilford, of course, the same thing with tourism. New Hampshire, New Hampton, yeah, so we also, I mean, I've heard it wasn't as busy this summer, but we usually have quite an uptick in business in the summer, right?
It all depends what year.
Okay, so sometimes, yes, okay. I know it, yeah, we used to go crazy, and then I went to someplace else that everybody left during the summer, went somewhere else, so we were actually pretty down, but, so anyways, there's probably a lot more questions that we need to ask, but it was a start, and like I said, it was a very, I just got this today, actually, so I haven't really gone over it yet. So those are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. I think that my personal opinion is if we're limited to 25 hours, then I think we should consider definitely going to full-time. And also, you know, looking, I would love to see us be able to get a paramedic as well, so that during those hours that that person is here, we have that extra ability to provide that service if possible. Again, don't know if we could do that, but,
Well, another,
I think that would be a big asset to the department.
I agree to somewhat, but you also have someone that has visions for keeping everything going, I think is a pretty big,
Well,
you
we'd
know,
have,
keeping on the positive flow that the department has had.
well, we'd have to go through an interview process,
Oh,
et
yeah,
cetera.
yeah.
You know, when we hired the previous chief, we had actually, some of the area fire chiefs go through the application review, we called it, and they checked the qualifications, et cetera. They recommended, I don't remember if it was the top 10, but it was probably around that, maybe a few less, I'm not sure. To go into the initial interview process that, Naomi, myself, I believe the new Boston chief, I think there was one or two other people on that committee. You were on that?
No.
Okay. So we did the interview process, and we sent the top 3 to the Board of Fire Wards, who did another interview with those top 3. And then, we ended up having a dispute with the selectmen that we believed that it was our job to hire the fire chief, and they said, no, it was theirs, so they said that we could recommend to them and they would do the hiring, so that's what we did. But then after the fact, we found out it was the board, a fire ward's authority to do the hiring, so. So I don't know if we would do a similar process to that or whatever. I know that before we had a good experience doing the process in-house, and we saved it some money, obviously. I've seen some outside that work pretty good, and I've seen some outside that the candidates they came up with didn't work so good. I think that one of the advantages of doing it in-house is that we know what we're looking for, you know, in some of the things that you talked about, and so, I'd like to see us try that if that's a consensus of the board. But I think that, you know, as a start to the questions that we need to answer is, what are we looking for hours and pay? Is, you know, and then we, you know, fit the pieces in there as we can. Does that sound like a plan? Anybody?
This is for the next meeting, like, think to
Well,
ourselves and
I'm trying to
kinda-
start.
Well,
Yeah,
no, I understand.
I'm gonna do more research.
I'd be
you know,
interested to hear on the hour part from people who work in the department now.
I think we all have similar opinions. I personally don't see the need for a full-time chief right this minute. And I'm a little concerned going to the voters in March and saying, hey, we need $130,000 for a new chief. And then we can't hire a chief until July. Especially next year. Just the general feel I get is people are suffering, so,
It's true.
That's true.
I don't know. I don't know that a paramedic is necessary. We'd always love to have a paramedic, but again, that drives the price up.
That's true.
And again, we're a low-volume town. We're not a Manchester, we're not a Nashua, we're not a Boston, we're not, the number of fire calls that, structure fires or whatever that are gonna require super skills, or the medic level calls that we get them, but it's, I don't know that it
When you
requires
get
being
them,
a
you won't-
full-time paramedic qualified fire chief, I think. I agree. But, and you right, I think if you go to the townspeople and say, this is gonna be $100,000 plus $30,000 in benefits plus retirement, whatever, and it's gonna cost you this much money for a position that I don't think really requires that many hours a week.
Well, that's why I started getting this information to see what those figures actually should be. And I can't sit here and tell you right now, cause I just got these, so I haven't really gone over them to see what would be reasonable to expect to have to pay for something like that. There's also, people that are tired of working shift work, that are highly qualified, that, and so, you know, they're looking for that next step as well and challenge. You know, it gets to a point where, you know, you have a lot to offer, and also, you know, you have your ideas, and, you know, you kinda like the challenge of putting them to the test. And so we may not necessarily have to pay huge money to get somebody that's really motivated to do a really good job for this town. We're also a pretty attractive town in the fact that we are a growing town. We're moving forward, the fire department is moving forward and doing a really good job. We have a really good crew of people. So I think we're attractive, you know, it's not all about the money a lot of times in the fire service.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Disagree.
I mean,
US,
Thanks, Dave,
it's all about
everything's
money.
about the money.
yeah.
There,
Yes.
with the last guy we talked to, and he wanted more money,
I think just getting
so,
firefighters,
I mean,
they
I'm
want
okay
more
with
money.
going,
Yeah.
Not the chief.
go
Well,
ahead.
that's your opinion, that's fine.
Yeah,
My
I mean,
opinion's
I'm
based
okay,
on a
go
lot
ahead
of
to the
years,
voters and
my
say-
opinion's based on a lot of years of working with a lot of people.
Yep.
And that's what I have found. So, I'm not saying that yours is wrong, I'm just saying this is my opinion based on my experience.
I would be okay, go to the voters with a warrant article. We want a full-time chief, but we better have a plan B. I would like to think we would start the process well beforehand, so that we had,
That's why I
if the
felt it
town
was,
says yes, then all right,
Right.
we got 6 resumes right here. Let's
and
go.
that's why I felt it was important tonight to get this ball rolling. I would have liked to have done it at the last meeting, but we had an awful lot of stuff going on. So, and I didn't have any information last meeting, so.
And off the top of my head, I would think any paramedic that's coming in here as a chief, full-time, is gonna want $100,000 a year.
Yeah, I don't, I'm not arguing with, cause I don't know. And so, all I was saying was, if I'm saying what would be good for us to have, of course it would be good for us to have.
Having a paramedic in the front office every day would be nice, but I'm talking $30,000, are we spending that in paramedic intercepts a year? Not even close.
And then you run into, I mean, we have a former per diem member who has an administrative job in another town, and he is a paramedic, and he's not happy because he doesn't get enough chance because he's being an administrator to use his paramedic skills. So he's gone out to find other opportunities where he can just work as a medic, because he put a lot of time and effort into becoming a medic, and instead
So you
he's
could get
being
the
an
best of both
administrator.
worlds in Weare, because we're a small enough department that he would get to use his medic skills. That's what I'm saying, is we're an advantage over the all or nothing.
Well, what
Except for there.
We need all hands for all things sometimes.
But if you look at our call volume, and you look at the types of calls we have, and you look at how many require paramedic level skills, I don't know, you guys would know better.
I think we should just all write down what we think's
More
best for
sign-offs than we
the,
get transport, so.
the town for a chief, right? We'll come back to the next meeting and I'll speak on it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Cause we could sit here till 11 o'clock tonight
just
speculating
trying to
this
start
and
a-
that. No,
just
no,
trying to
that's
start a
good,
discussion,
because, you know what I mean? Make a list of what you think is what your opinion as a board member,
Yeah,
should be about the fire chief's position, and go from there.
I also started
like it.
collecting some job descriptions, which I'll get more to.
Well, that's,
if we can.
yeah, that's good.
But we don't have to talk about those tonight, but,
I think one of the harder parts is gonna be, we can't even post a job until we know if it's a part-time or full-time.
correct.
Yeah, that is true.
So just what you mentioned about what if the voters don't approve it, so, we have the fire chief salary that we were paying. And then I also wanted to, that's why I brought up the administrative, person, if we wanted to combine those. Because, and here's my thought process on that, just to give you something to think about, is that do we need, another question is, do we need a separate person in the office? Because when we started that position, well, years ago, we started the position, when there was nobody else but the secretary. But that kinda morphed into that person there, but we didn't have, now we have station coverage 24 hours a day. So we have people to answer the phone. We also have, every full-time person has administrative duties, correct?
No.
No?
Part of the problem with that is you have a minimum of 4 people who be in the front office, provided they're not on a call.
Yep. I can't tell you how many times I've either come in or called, and nobody's there.
Yeah.
So, cause first of all, it's part-time,
Yep.
and then if they have to go to the post office, the whatever,
Sure.
or they're out, or, you know,
Well, there's
whatever.
that.
Yeah. And
I
so,
just, I don't think 4 people trying to do one job is gonna be anywhere near efficient.
if they all have specific roles in what they're doing, I mean,
But, I mean, how are you gonna have a specific role if somebody calls on a Tuesday and has a question for Monday's job? They're like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to talk to Jim Bob, he's not here for another 3 days.
yeah,
I just don't see it being efficient, how the chief can say, I need this done. Okay, but they got banged out on a call, it didn't get done.
well, when I spoke to the person that was filling the position, that didn't sound like a huge amount of things that need to be delegated out.
I don't know,
And maybe it was work as, what is it, other work as assigned, I don't know, but,
I honestly don't know what the person in the front office does. I have no clue.
Orders paper towels.
so that, I just throw that out there, that if we did, you know, wanna consider combining those roles, before we lock ourselves into something, I think that would be something to explore.
Combining the chief and the, administrative
Yes.
person? Okay.
Yeah. I just throw that out there for everybody to think about.
That's another thing put on our list for the next meeting, you know what I mean?
I don't think a prospective chief is gonna be okay with
Answering phone.
answering the phone and typing his own emails,
And ordering,
his or her.
ordering dish soap.
Well, again, you've said it, we're a small department,
Our
so,
full department,
you know,
what you gotta do.
where do we've tried over the last several years to establish our priorities of what, you know, first and foremost, we need to answer emergency calls.
Absolutely.
And make sure that those are being taken care of in the best way we can. And I think this sort of action could follow that perspective. Anybody else got anything?
I'm Gucci.
All right. Next item is the manifest, sorry, minutes, approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to see them?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay, have a
Second.
motion, seconded. Any questions or comments?
There was one spelling error.
Oh, no.
You got it?
I don't have them. You could send them over, I'll point it out.
Pass, spell check.
I would've never noticed.
There,
If I
So-
did it, you'd be rewriting the whole thing. Terrible spelling.
I know, it's hard when you think you know what it says to,
Right into,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
But
always-
nothing came back with a little red squiggly line underneath it.
Okay, in item 7C,
No.
it says the town water supply, dry hydrants, cisterns, all need to be tested before if freezes, should be it.
Oh, it.
You
Well,
want
no
to
wonder
amend
it's
the
a real
motion?
word, that's why
I'll
you
make
never
an
read
amend to
squiggly.
change if to it on the cistern talk on the minutes.
Okay,
Right?
does that, the person that seconded it, is that okay with you?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we have an official motion. Is there any more discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. All right, next item is the manifest.
That was a 7-0.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I move to accept the fire department's accounts payable manifest for checks dated September 15, 2022, in the amount of $10,524.42.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain. 7-0-0.
Who seconded?
Killian, right?
Yep.
Okay, yep. My short-term memories. All right, next item is administrative report.
Got any more?
No, but I think we should go behind closed doors to talk about, something.
Okay,
How do we do that?
well, we gotta make a motion. Is it,
Personnel.
Is that the last
Personnel.
thing, is that the last thing is the administrative, or do you wanna do it
Yes.
through the rest of it?
yep.
Oh, geez. And that, chief, if you don't mind.
Spare one of these.
I gotta do it. Yeah. Do you want this?
Oh, yeah.
That needs to be filled out for us. Let me find the thing here.
I'm gonna flip that switch, remember.
So if it's, would be A and C. I'm guessing. Right, personnel, A and C is normally what we do. So 91A3, 2,
Yep.
A and C. I'll make a motion that we go into non-public session under 91A:3, 2, A and C. At
1950.
1950 hours. Is there a second? Wait a second.
I will second it.
Okay, we have a second. Can you call the roll for me, please?
Okay, Wayne Meady,
Aye.
Yes.
David Huey, right?
Yep.
H-E-W-E-Y,
Absolutely, senior.
Killian Donnelly,
Enjoy.
Yes.
Roberts. Is there two L's in your name, Killian?
Yep, Killian, and then Donnelly is Donnelly. Just 4 L's.
Louisa Earp,
Aye.
Bob Richards. And myself.
Yep.
Okay, so that's,
And then
what is that, all of us, right? Okay. All right, we'll be, wait a second. We'll be exiting and adjourning the meeting following the non-public session. Thank you.